All right. We got a lot of different stories here to kind of catch up on and plug in, which is actually
You're going to
great.
have to be doing a bunch of editing.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, all we have, we're creating material. Well, people may watch this in WKTV. We're primarily making this for the archive, and as long as we got it, we're good. Okay. Now, we have a number of other, we've talked some about dealing with the civilian population, the Vietnamese, and so forth. And there's another number of pieces of your story that relate to that I want to bring in. One of them has to do, some of it has to do with dealing with the Montagnards. I think there was a point when you had to deal with a mother and her baby. What's that story?
It was during the monsoons, and they had brought a Montagnard woman, I say this, but she was maybe 14, with her child into 71st Evac Hospital. The child was jaundice, and they were trying to help. They got into the hospital and determined there was nothing they could do and the baby was going to die. Montagnard religion teaches that if they die away from home, their spirit wanders forever trying to find home. Due to the monsoons, they couldn't get anybody to get her back, and taking the road takes a long time. And even during the monsoons, when things get bad enough, the MPs and everything are pulled off the road, and she'd have to ride her water buffalo back out there. Since I flew the chaplains, and I worked with the chaplains a bunch, I got a call at the aviation section at Artillery Hill, and they asked me if I could take her back out to her village. And that was at a Special Forces camp. And I called the Air Force Base and checked with the weather people, and there really wasn't enough time. Now this is going to sound churchy, but this is part of the story. I felt by the Spirit that I could do it, and I just knew. But I was short time on both ends of the window. They told me within plus or minus 5 minutes when they thought the weather would stop, and within plus or 5 minutes when they thought the weather was going to start again. So I got an aircraft, and I went over 71st Evac and landed on their pad. Of course, I say landed, you know, the engine's still running and everything's going, and they bring her out and they put her in the, I'd taken the controls out and everything on the other side. There's only me and the 58, and they put her in the co-pilot seat on the other side. And I said to them, I said, does she speak Vietnamese? They said, no. Does she speak English? No. Does anybody here speak Montagnard? No. Does she know where she's going? Does she know what we're doing? No. Oh. Now, these people, they're like our Indians. They live in the jungle. About the only thing you'll find in their village that's man-made, maybe from outside their village, is a machete. And a lot of them are homegrown and made. If the chaplains haven't got to them, missionaries haven't been there, the women are bare-chested. They got a piece of cloth wrapped around their waist that goes down to about mid-calf. The guys wear a loincloth. That's it. Kids to about age 14 run around naked as a jaybird. And they're very, very moral people. Put her in the front seat, and you got to keep in mind, I'm a military pilot, and I'm in a flight suit, and I got long sleeves and gloves, and things are velcroed down to my boots, and I've got sunglasses on and my helmet and visor down, and I look like some sort of big bug sitting in the front of this thing. Now she's in the front of this, and you got all the plexiglass so you can see. And my aircraft does about 125 miles an hour ground speed. And where we're at 71st Evac, I can't get airborne out of there because we're under the approach path for the Air Force Base, which is, usually the hospitals are built right next to the Air Force Base for obvious reasons, for evacuation and that. So I come out of there and I'm low leveling, and I get out of part of Pleiku, but I'm still on the end of Pleiku Air Base's runway. So I'm low leveling across the rice paddies and stuff out there. And she sees my hand on the collective over here, my left hand, and she looks over there and she grabs it. I guess it looks like something worthwhile holding on to. Well, it controls the pitch in the main rotor blades, determines basically how high you are, and I'm about 6 inches off the race. And she's holding on to this, and I'm looking at her and looking at this and looking at this and looking at. Of course, I got my sunglasses on. She can't see my eyes, and I'm trying to let her know that no, she got to let go of that. And she finally does, and I smile at her. And then I'm going out a ways from the base, and I notice a sucker hole. And a sucker hole is in bad weather. If you get into one of them, you start up and think you can go over the top of it, and it closes in on you. And I'm not worried about it closing in on me because I'm instrument rated and I can just jump on the instruments and I know where the tops are. So I can come out on top. So I get in this thing and I corkscrew up to the top and I'm over the top and I'm looking at this huge cotton field. I can't see anything for orientation, absolutely nothing. So I start calling a few places and I get on their radar. And I'm printed on about 3 different radars. And I tell them where I want to go, and they're radar vectoring me. So I'm talking to them and working my way out there, and I get over the top of the base where she lives, and they tell me I'm there. And lo and behold, another sucker hole opens up. And I corkscrew down through and drop her off. And then I come out of there, corkscrew back up, and start heading back. And again, can't recognize anything, can't see anything. Of course, it wasn't raining when I was down there either, so it's fine. But the tops can build real fast. The weather can go down the drain in minutes. And I'm coming back, and now it's just a matter of time and distance and heading. You just... And as I'm going along fat, dumb, and happy, all of a sudden my FM radio goes beep, 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 and I know I'm in a world of trouble. At that time, the guys, the pilots, were getting fuzzbusters from the States. And I just got printed by ground defense radar. And it swept me, and my FM radio will pop then, and that's what I heard. And then it'll come back and pop me again. And then they come in and they narrowed in, they locked on me. And I'm expecting to get shot any minute. And instead of just sitting there doing nothing, my first response when I got swept and then got swept again, before they even locked onto me, I jumped on my radio and I told the first radar place, mark me on your screen. And they did, with a grease pencil. And I'm calling the next one, mark me on the screen. I ain't even telling them why, just telling them mark me. And they're marking me on the screen. And then I come back and I tell each one of them as I can, because each one of them's on a different frequency, that has just been printed by ground defense radar and I'm expecting to get shot at. And I don't get shot at. I don't know why. I just keep going. Next thing I know, they're telling me that I'm over Artillery Hill. That's 52nd Group Headquarters in Pleiku. I can't see a thing. And I'm getting ready to go over to Pleiku and shoot an instrument approach into the Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. And about then, a sucker hole opens up. And a corkscrew right on down through, and I managed to end the corkscrew right on the end of our runway. Mm-hmm. How fortuitous. Right at the end of our runway. And I get on the runway, and I'm at 3 foot standard and start hovering down the runway, and the heavens open up. And I can't even see to hover down our runway. I look sideways, and I can't even, through the open door on the other side of the aircraft, even see the dividing line down the middle of the runway. I look through the chin bubble, and I can see part of the stones and that in the Pentaprime on the asphalt, and I set the aircraft down on the ground and shut it off, and they come out with ground handling equipment. They had to put it in their revetment. That happened to me on, this is one, but I went out for another guy who had FUO, fever of unknown origin. And the same sort of thing happened. And that one, I was flying towards a wall. And you just look at it, here's this black wall, ground to 60,000+ feet. And if, that may not mean anything to you, but over 12,000, we can't operate for over a half hour without oxygen. Mm-hmm. What's Everest, 29,000?
Yeah. So
60
60,000.
plus thousand feet wall. And I'm flying straight towards the wall. And same feeling again. Knew I could get out, knew I could get back, knew it would be okay. Matter of fact, my crew chief at that time says to me, he was flying with me. I cranked up the aircraft. He says, "Where are you going?" I told him. He says, "Well, I'm coming with you." I said, "You're crazier than a March hare." He says, No. He says, "You get in that stuff." He says, "At least you'll need somebody to change radios." He says, "I can read some of the instruments for you. I can help you out in the cockpit. I can cut down your workload." I says, "You want it?" I'm getting goosebumps. I wouldn't ask him to go. I wouldn't put him in that situation. And yet I knew I could get there and get back safely, and I'd do it for somebody else, but I wouldn't put anybody else's life in that situation. And he insisted going with me. And again, we're painting it on everybody's radar. Nothing to do but time, distance, and heading. And he looked at me and he says, "What are you thinking, sir?" I says, "You don't want to know." He says, "Yes, I do." I says, "Well," I says, "don't jump up and shoot me right away. Hear me out totally." He says, "Okay." I was thinking it'd be a great day to die. He says, "What?" "Well, you know, I got a T-shirt that says, 'You can't take this life too seriously. No one gets out alive.' You got to go. I get into that thing, I'm going to be hit like a bug on them with a fly swatter. You're not going to know what happened. You're not going to suffer. You're not going to go through long pain. You're not going to... Is there a better way to go trying to save a fellow man?" You know, I mean, it was... And I wasn't trying to be suicidal. And I wasn't trying to be a hero. And I just... If it was me out there, I'd want somebody to come. If it was my brother, I'd want... And he was my brother. You'd want somebody to come. And I thought I could do it. And we did. But that was another one. I got to the runway, and it was like I flew into the ocean. I mean, that's just what it was like. It was like I was underwater. It was raining that. It would rain so hard, you could stand on one side of the runway and couldn't see the other side.
Have you ever experienced physical conditions like that since you got back to the States? I mean, is a really, really bad rainstorm that we might have here similar to that? Or
No.
This is a whole other level?
No.
Okay.
I have seen clouds at times that looked as menacing. And you have to understand, I am a ham radio operator. I do work with Stormwatch. And we certify the weather before the TV stations, and I can give it out to the public. I have been I haven't been in the tornado. I've been close enough that I think if I threw a baseball, it'd throw it back at me. But I'm also on the downside track. It's past me. I'm coming in from the side and going behind it. But no, I've never seen rain like we...